it is vital to understand the concept of context, right? Now, what do I mean about context, right? Like, many people may ask, like, oh man, why would you go the biology first approach? Why would you be very upfront about your sexual intentions with a woman? You know, if she like you, you're gonna get the pussy anyways. Just take the woman out on a date, or if you broke, just say that. You know what I mean? Or all type of bitch ass arguments that don't make too much sense, right? A lot of things are about the high ground, and a lot of things are about understanding context, right? Now, what do I mean by that? When you're establishing your program, when you're establishing how you're going to interact with somebody, there's only two ways to avoid wasting your time, right? Either you do things the way you want to do it because that's how you want to do it, or let's say I'm talking masculine, dominant, feminine, submissive, right? So either, as a man, you can have sex with the woman because you want to, be upfront about your intentions, and risk the possibility of her rejecting your offer right away, right? Don't ask for some pussy, you offer her some dick, right? Or you can choose to spend time with that woman non-sexually because that is something that you desire to do, right? That's how you avoid wasting your time. Now, spending time with a woman non-sexually because that's what you desire to do doesn't automatically mean feminine submissive. It's feminine submissive if you're getting on her program, if you're submitting yourself to her in the way that you do it. You can be doing a masculine submissive exercise control or a masculine dominant exercise and self-control and spend time with the woman non-sexually and not waste your time even if you don't end up having sex. Right? Masculine submissive exercise and self-control, meaning that you choose to take a platonic friend route because sex is not that big of a priority, or you just assume she don't want it and you're cool on that. She offers other things of value to your life non-sexually. That's a masculine submissive exercise and self-control, right? And then you also have the masculine dominant exercise and self-control, which is where you are establishing your program from the front and you are assessing if that woman is worthy of dick from you. So that means that if you don't fuck, you didn't waste your time. Why didn't you waste your time? Because you having sex with her wasn't a guarantee for you in the first place. Even if she wanted to do it, you wouldn't have done it yet. If she threw it at you the moment she met you, you wouldn't have taken it. So therefore, you're not getting manipulated out of your time. Right? With the masculine submissive exercise and self-control, you check yourself. Right? Now, part of the masculine submissive exercise and self-control is understanding this being platonic friends, that you have to require a reciprocation on the non-sexual level. Meaning that if you aren't enjoying the time that you spend together, you don't. The moment you're no longer enjoying the conversation, you end the conversation. Right? If she's not a reciprocator, then you do not invest. Right? And I would say this, when it comes to assessing if a woman is quality for being a potential platonic friend, and that's something I actually don't have an issue with. A couple different things you need to keep in mind. Is she willing to spend her own money? Is she actually good to have conversation with? Right? Is she helping you with your business or something that you have going on? Right? Like, is she helping promote your business, your company, your platform? Also, does she have single friends that she puts you on? If those things aren't taking place, that's not a quality platonic friend. She's using you for attention. Or you're playing yourself, waiting around for her mind to change. Not good. Now, what you also have to understand is if you're highly attracted to a woman, you're doing a masculine submissive exercise of self-control. If the non-sexual quality that she adds to your life, the non-sexual value, begins to diminish, then your desire to have sex with her will start to increase. Right? That means that it's like, let's say you're a nice guy, you meet a woman on a dating app, you're having a conversation with her, you want some pussy, but you just having a conversation with her. The moment you start getting bored, it's like, let me bring my dick up because I'm getting bored now. Right? And that's kind of how those things can work, right? When you get bored in a conversation, you just bring your dick up. So either she is trying to raise her own interest, or she's trying to get sexual validation from you. So, and that's part of how you know a woman is running a attention whore game, right? There's a difference between an attention whore and a quality woman to be platonic friends with. A woman who is an attention whore is a woman who doesn't only want non-sexual attention, she also wants to feel validated for her beauty, validated for attractiveness, and validated for her sexual desirability. Right? And oftentimes catching the hand in the cookie jar comes from the masculine submissive exercise of self-control. So if she tries to reach her hand in the cookie jar for sexual validation, when you've already told yourself that you're going to engage with this woman non-sexually, that's when you go ahead and say, listen, I ain't even going to play with you like that. I'm not going to sit here and fake flirt with you. If we're not fucking, I'm not going to sit here and do that. All right? You go ahead and you might reciprocate that flirting just a little bit, then you go ahead and put it out on the table, or you go ahead and pretty much call her bluff. Or you ignore it and just move past it, especially if you're not attracted to her enough. Right? But those are the two ways to avoid wasting your time. Now, something to understand is somebody would say, if you want a relationship, why would you lead with sex? Well, one, just because you want one thing doesn't mean that's the only thing that you want. Right? Like, just because you want to have sex with a woman doesn't mean that you're not open to a relationship somewhere down the line. That's something that I see gets missed out on in the conversation, especially with a lot of dating coaches, a lot of people who teach on being direct about your sexual intentions. Is oftentimes they're moving from the assumption that the man who wants to engage with the woman sexually only wants to engage with the woman sexually. That's not always the case. But context matters. You may be a man who wants to engage with a woman non-sexually, but your priority is gaining sexual access to that woman. So when you set the context of being upfront about your sexual intentions, you put yourself in a position where that is the context. Right? So I'll take a mentality of not leading with the full package. Right? I'm not saying some can't or that it'll never work, but oftentimes you can get your time wasted doing that. And you can waste your own time. So if you're cool just fucking with the woman, that's your main priority, then let it be that, unless she wants to campaign for more than just dick. Now, why does context matter so much when I'm talking about this? Context is oftentimes the difference between setting standards and being controlling or of being manipulative. Setting context, setting the tone, setting the pace, setting the narrative of your interactions is oftentimes going to be the difference between taxing and coercing. Understand what I'm saying? If the context starts off primarily sexually, that's the primary context, right? Let's say a woman comes over and y'all are engaging sexual activities. Let's say she comes over a few times At any point in time, if that woman comes over and says, oh, I don't want to have sex today, I just want to hang out, the context of your conversation, the context of the reason she was coming to see you was to engage in a sexual conversation, in a sexual relationship, right? So if she doesn't want to, you can send her ass home or take her home, because your intentions were clear before she came over. See, that's my issue with the whole idea of leading with plausible deniability about your intentions, trying to make someone feel comfortable. Right? But because when your context is non-sexual, or your context is let's just hang out and have a good time, or your context is leading with the full package, right? You're giving plausible deniability about your intentions being sexual in nature. What you then do is put yourself in a scenario where you are now viewed as an asshole. Nothing wrong with being an asshole to a certain extent, but you're now viewed as an asshole or a liar or a manipulator or someone who's trying to pressure a woman into sex if she comes over and she decides she doesn't want to have sex. Because the context was non-sexual. Right? There's an importance when it comes to context. Right? If you tell a woman, hey, I want to be friends with benefits, that's your first thing. Right? And there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't even believe in just leading with being friends with benefits. It can work, but oftentimes it won't. Because a lot of women, you have to understand the animus. Most women are going to have a split animus, meaning that the guy is going to fit into the box within her own mind of either being the gentleman or the gigolo. Meaning he is just a sex guy. And typically, for most women, they're going to some extent, operate from the masculine submissive exercise and self-control when they are engaging with the man sexually, until they either get digmatized or until they see the potential for a long-term relationship. Those are the two exceptions, right? Like I said, there's a masculine submissive exercise and self-control for a man, just like there's a masculine submissive exercise and self-control for a woman. If a woman looks at you and she converses with you and she decides from a semi-logical place in her right mind that, you know what, I have sexual needs, and this is a man who I believe can meet the sexual need. Now, for her, she still is going to view sex as giving up her value to a certain extent, right? But if the pleasure that you're offering her is equivalent or greater than the value she views in withholding her sexuality, then she is going to do a masculine submissive exercise and self-control and become your fuck buddy. Or at least engage in a hookup. Now, remember the path of transitional dating, right? The path of transitional dating goes from hookup to fuck buddy to friends with benefits to branching out into whatever type of dynamic that you're open to, that you see that the woman can qualify for. So in some situations, that may be a polyamorous relationship. In some situations, that may be a monopoly situation. In some situations, that may be a trial period in monogamy. In some situations, it's a variety of things that it can be. And in some situations, you go from friends with benefits to going back down to fuck buddies, because the woman cannot appreciate or cannot handle having a certain level of non-sexual access to you while still engaging with you sexually without feeling as if she's giving up too much of herself. Right? So that's where it's the masculine submissive exercise and self-control. If it feels too much like boyfriend energy, right? Like you want her to be invested in you like a girlfriend, and that's a desire or a need that you have, and it's pulling on her, then first off, she's going to be very reserved with the non-sexual energy that she gives you. But she may also limit the sexual access she gives you according to how much she desires you. Right? And oftentimes there's a difference between the 8 level and the 9 level of sexual attraction. So in the 8 level, if she's available, if she's free, if you give her enough pleasure, and if she likes you at least a little bit, then if she's free, then she'll let you know. If she's not free, she won't. If that's a woman who respects you on a certain level and she really enjoys fucking with you, if she's not free on a particular occasion, then she will let you know when she's free again. And then she'll schedule that time. But setting an expectation of her doing that can also put you in a situation where you are expecting a certain level of consistent sexual access to her that is not really something she wants that often with you in particular. She may have a rotation of guys she's fucking with already. Or she may view that as girlfriend privileges. Now, what are girlfriend privileges? Girlfriend privileges tend to extend into like her cooking for you, her cleaning for you, her spending her own money. It also can extend into her having sex with you in times where her desire isn't at its peak. Right? I'm not saying these are things that if a girl does this, she should be your girlfriend, but I'm saying that these are things that are typically viewed as girlfriend privileges. So if a girl isn't sexually attracted to you enough, she's only going to want to hook up with you in times where she really desires to get some dick. And it may not just be about your dick specifically. It may just be times where she's horny, so she hits you up because she's horny. See, a woman doesn't really qualify to be a fuck buddy unless you've hooked up with her, I'd say at least 3 to 4 times in a month's time. Right? 3 to 4 times in a month's time. Now, understand that there's a difference between a hookup, a fuck buddy, and a fling. Now, keep very well in mind that when I was talking about the transitions of transitional dating with the biology first approach, that fling wasn't a part of that transition. Because oftentimes a woman may have an itch to scratch. And if you fuck this woman multiple times, like more than twice in a week's time, right? Y'all link up to fuck more than twice in a week's time, then that may pour out too much of that woman's cup. You may do way too much up front. It may burn out the sexual attraction that's there to a certain extent. And then you go from pretty much sex bombing. You're doing too much up front, and it's something that maybe she is going to maintain, and the level of non-sexual access that she may be having to you and sleeping with you that many times within a week's period of time may cause her to have this desire to be your girlfriend prematurely, right? Or it may, like, what you have to understand is that the moment that you extend that woman's particular sex drive for you and you go beyond that, that's where you are starting to dive into what I call the girlfriend privileges, right? So that means that if you extend beyond that woman's natural sex drive for herself and how she feels towards you, then now it's starting to take energy away from her. Context matters, right? So if you're in a situation where you're leading with the full package, she may be open to that, but don't be surprised if that turns into a bait and switch situation where you're going real hot and heavy at first. Then after it goes real hot and heavy at first, and then it calms down. And then when it calms down, if you still have the need for that level of access to her, you may have wrongly set your own expectation, and then you will feel as if you were bait and switched when you get into a long-term relationship with her and she can't maintain that same frequency and consistency of sexual access. Now, why did I say that there's a difference between taxing and coercion when it comes to context? Right? If you aren't already sleeping with the woman, right? And you aren't already having sex with this woman, sex is in the context of you interacting. And then you put pressure on her to have sex with you because she did something that you didn't like. Then a lot of women will just turn that down. But oftentimes a woman who may agree to that may be a woman who feels pressured, and then she may interpret that as if you are coercing her into sex. Right? Another thing, like that plausible deniability. When the context of you interacting with this woman is sexual, right? then how it looks and how it's interpreted for you to allow drugs and or alcohol to be part of your sexual relationship is different. Understand that, right? If you've never had sex with a woman, you've never had a sexual conversation with this woman about what you actually plan to do when you link up, if you've never done that, then understand that you're putting yourself in grave harm and you're not adequately protecting yourself. If you find yourself in a scenario where you're like, all right, yeah, come over, bring a bottle, and y'all get drunk, or she brings some weed over and y'all get high and then y'all have sex. Most situations like that may not turn out wrong, but because the context is non-sexual in how you're engaging with each other, if you then take that model of kicking her out because she's not fucking, or kick her out right after y'all have sex, then she may feel as if she was wronged, feel as if she was taken advantage of, and then she may hit you with a me too. Right? If she doesn't have enough shadow integration to be aware and honest with herself about her own sexual desires, then what you have to understand is that in these particular scenarios, if that's what type of woman you're dealing with, she may have so much shame and guilt revolving around sexuality and her inability to be honest with herself about what she wants and to be receptive to you approaching her directly about your sexual intentions, that if you include drugs or alcohol, which is can be a form of something that lowers inhibitions, then you have to understand that if her inhibitions go back up to their normal level, she may feel as if she was taken advantage of. If she feels any guilt or shame revolving around the fact that she engaged with you in casual sex. Context matters, right? Like if you have a string of conversations in your text messages or in your social media inbox, your DMs, right, where she knows she's coming over to fuck. If she comes over and she's drinking, or if she comes over and you're smoking, then that's not going to be something that's going to be interpreted as rape, right? It's not going to be interpreted as date rape because you're not dating, you're fucking. And you just wanted to add a little bit of some extracurricular activities to your sexual relationship, but there's nothing wrong with that. Context matters, right? See, what being direct about your sexual intentions, what Alan Roger Curry would be consider being mode 1, but what I would call the biology first approach, because there's See, the thing to understand about mode 1 is this right here, right? And I'm a big fan of mode 1. Rest in peace to the GOAT Alan Roger Curry. But where transitional dating is different from mode 1 is that mode 1 typically is going to, I don't want to say pander, but somewhat, pander to a woman's sexual duplicity, as far as by telling a woman all you want is sex and you don't want to do anything other than that, then that means that now she has the opportunity to treat you as if you were a sex object, so that she doesn't feel wrong or feel sexually objectified by being only a sex partner towards you. So you lead by saying, I'm not looking for anything monogamous. I'm not looking for anything long-term. I'm not looking for anything emotionally profound. That way, you are not giving inadvertent behavior, but also that way, she's not mixing in the idea of wanting something long-term with you. Now, some women are going to want that anyways. But like I said, a lot of men aren't actually looking to have only short-term, casual, non-monogamous sex with women. Some men just don't want to be bait and switched. Some men want to not be in a relationship with a woman unless they have a pretty clear understanding that their sexual needs are going to be met. And especially for when you use the biology first approach, you're also seeing how sex mixes with emotions for this particular woman. You're rewarding good behavior non-sexually. You start off rewarding good behavior sexually, but you're also rewarding good behavior non-sexually, so that there is a positive correlation between sex and non-sexual pouring into one another and creating this cycle of energy. Now, what does this mean and how I expressed it, right? Now, let's say you start off as hookup, right? You might hook up a couple times. And like I said, if it's about 3 to 4 times within a month, I say don't sleep with a woman more than twice a week. But if it's at least 3 to 4 times within a month, let's say at least 2 of those times are times where you either negotiated when you would link up or she was free when you wanted her to be free, then you could then consider that somebody you would call a fuck buddy, right? Like a fling may be a woman who you fuck 3, 4, 5 times in a week. It may not go anywhere after that. It may go a little bit further than that, but a fling is a little bit different. But when a woman transitions from fuck buddy to friends with benefits, this is where context matters even more. If the woman starts to pull back sexually as non-sexual things are included into that fuck buddy dynamic, then you no longer continue to pursue things going forward non-sexually, and you leave things where they are. I remember one time I had a fuck buddy, right? And she ended up becoming my submissive, right? But before then, we were just fuck buddies. Every time we linked up, we were fucking. One time, I told her I was trying to get that head later on. I was trying to get that neck, you know what I mean? Told her to come through. So I picked her up. She came through, right? And when she came through, she acted like she didn't know what time it was. So I didn't really say shit to her. Maybe sat there 30 minutes, hour, something like that. She's talking about some other shit. I didn't give a fuck about that. And you know what I did? I took her home. I said, you know, I think it's about time for you to go home. Right? Because she acted like she didn't know what time it was. Now, if you are friends with benefits with a woman before that occurs, right? Then now you're just an asshole. If you're fuck buddies when that occurs, right? If you lead with non-sexual interaction, then now you're just the asshole. Now you're just the fuck boy. Now you're a dude who gives a woman the impression that you want to spend time with her non-sexually, and then when she's not non-sexually available to you, now you're shutting down on her. But if that's a woman who's a fuck buddy and the context is sexual, right? It's a sexual context. She is trying to subvert the expectation of the dynamic, and now you have the right to send her ass the fuck home. Not saying that you don't have the right to do that anyways, but in this context, she understands that you set the masculine foundation for your interaction. So it's not as if she's giving you pussy. It's more so that you two are engaging in sex or you are giving her dick, and that's the context. That's what y'all do. See, a lot of what the biology first approach is about is not allowing a woman to feel entitled to non-sexual access to you and then pulling away sexually to think that that's going to give her a greater level of non-sexual access to you. You not only set her expectation, but you set your expectation. That is contextual. Right? Because understand that if you're in a long-term relationship with a woman and she starts in your girlfriend, boyfriend, a monogamous relationship, that's what you agreed to, right? And then she starts to pull away sexually, right? And then you start doing what I just said, like shutting down if she's not having sex, then she can view that as emotional abuse. She can view that as being sexually pressured. She can view that as being pressured into having sex with you. But because you've already set the expectation, you've already set the context of it being a non-sexual relationship where it's supposed to be emotionally connected, then the onus is on you to have a capacity to communicate rather than expecting her to just understand. And the thing to understand about it is this: trying to go out of your way to communicate with a brand new woman and you don't even know how her animus is integrated, communication may be a turnoff. It may simply come off as begging. It may come off as you're failing shit tests. It may come off as showing weakness to communicate and negotiate, especially in regards to sex, with a woman who you already haven't properly vetted as having integrated her animus enough to do that. Context matters. Very important to understand context. See, another reason that it benefits to go with the biology first approach is you're not leading with monogamy. The woman's already accustomed to knowing that you can have other women that you're fucking with that may add to her attraction to you. And it also gives a certain feeling, just a little bit of competition. But it also lets her know that your time is valuable. It also gives you the freedom to not feel the need to spend too much time with her inadvertently because you want to have sexual access to her. Like, remember what I said, not sleeping with the woman more than twice a week when she's just a fuck buddy. Right? When you lead with monogamy off top, that woman may have sex with you more often than she'd like to in order to keep you from fucking other women. And if you allow that to take place, then if you agree to monogamy and you haven't expressed that she hasn't seen that it is something that is conditional, right, to be sexually exclusive, then if she doesn't have the sex drive that she did, if she is baiting switching on you sexually, then she's still going to have an expectation of you being monogamous towards her because that's what you agreed to. Within the biology first approach, you set the context of if monogamy is something you're open to, and it doesn't have to be, that is something conditional. So as you are going through transitional dating with this particular woman, if over a consistent period of time, let's say you go from hookup to fuck buddy, and then while you're going from hookup to fuck buddy, sex isn't going downhill, but it may be starting and even going uphill more on both sides, or staying static and staying at the same level that it's at. As you start adding non-sexual things into that dynamic, then now in the fuck friends with benefits stage, you are setting a context and setting a precedent of having a capacity to maintain both the sexual and the non-sexual relationship. Now, guess what? For some men, if you're heavy on the boyfriend energy, then at this stage is where you may fuck up. Right? Because you have to be able to maintain this woman's interest, sexually and non-sexually, and not turn her off by the way that you're interacting with her non-sexually in a way that causes her to feel entitled to having non-sexual access to you, but still desiring to have non-sexual access to you. Now, from this stage, if you decide that you want a monogamous relationship, that's something that you would like to have, she's somebody who qualifies for that, you've been fucking with each other for a while, what's the next thing I said to do? To go through a trial period of monogamy, a trial period of exclusivity, where you're not yet in a committed relationship, but you're going to test the waters of being sexually exclusive with this woman for a period of time, maybe 3 months. I'm just throwing a number out there. Maybe 3 months of, and the friends with benefit stage can last longer than that. Probably should last longer than that. The fuck buddy stage may last longer than that, but it may be shorter, depending on what you want to do. It really depends on what you want to do, the pace, the timing, the trajectory you set for your own life, as well as what you're seeing in the woman that you're interacting with. Right? So when a woman's just a fuck buddy, she may be the one who initiates the non-sexual things. Understand this concept. It's the man's job to make himself sexually appealing. It's the woman's job to make herself non-sexually appealing. It's your job to make her want to fuck you. It's her job to deal with you in a way that causes you to want to spend time with her. Understand this concept, right? Understand this concept. Very important concept. Now, within this concept, let's say in the fuck buddy stage, she starts to, like, you drop some good dick on her. She gets up in the morning. She goes make some breakfast. Cool. You don't have to date the woman, but this is a good sign that this may be a woman you'd want to date. Let's say she offers to come cook for you, dinner for you. Let's say she initiates something. Let's say that you give her instructions to bring a bottle of wine over, spend her own money, or to bring something by the house. That's a good thing to have. If you've been fucking with a woman a few times, say, hey, bring something over to the house. If that's a woman who is very averse to spending any of her own money, I'm like, all right, cool. This is the 8 level of sexual attraction, or she doesn't value that much. You say, okay, cool. That's just going to be a hookup. That means you don't spend too much of your own money. Like, let's say you like to smoke your weed. Now, let's say you like to smoke. If she never puts in on that weed, you might do it a couple times. And then if she has an issue with putting in, you stop smoking with the broad. She come over, you smoke your own shit by yourself, or you smoke before she come over. Now, if you drop some real good dick on her, she may have no issue with doing that at all. I've done that before, where a woman will come over and she might bring a 3-5, bring an 8th every time she come through. Cool shit, right? See, that's how you can start being on some dick ain't free type of shit, the 9 level of sexual attraction type shit, where she understands she wants to maintain having sexual access to you, and the dick is so good that she feels like she needs to do some extra shit in order to show her appreciation for it, right? Let's say she starts showing interest in the things that you do non-sexually, as far as your career, or as far as your business, or as far as your content, or as far as whatever it is you have going on. And she's not pulling away sexually to want to campaign for that position. That's the woman who may get elevated up to a friends with benefits level. Let's say that there's things you're interested in, right? Let's say you're really interested in anime. She's your fuck buddy. Let's say you're playing some anime in the background. You start having a conversation about the shows. You're like, you know what? She a cool chick, right? Then let's say y'all start anime and chilling, or y'all start Netflix and chilling, right? That's where the woman starts going from the fuck buddy into the friends with benefit stage. Now, if this is a woman you realize you can build with, to make money with, this is a woman who may align with some of your goals and desires to have a family someday, right? Let's say you go out to the grocery store and you run an errand. Let's say you're in the friends with benefits stage, or you're seeing if she qualifies to be a friends with benefits. If you're a social guy, you may say, okay, cool, it's time to let her see what she'll do and how she'll react to getting out the dungeon, right? So you may go run an errand, tell her to hop in the car, come with you. You go to the grocery store, you take her with you to the grocery store, and you see if she knows how to carry herself a particular way that's to your liking. You see if she appreciates just making it out the house at all. Right? So you got to understand that there's different types of masculine dominant, right? With transitional dating, that's a type of masculine dominance. Right? Typically, a masculine dominant man, or a dominant man, is going to get into a relationship a couple of different ways. Either he's going to be upfront about wanting a relationship, maybe do a masculine dominant exercise in self-control, let the woman earn some dick, have conversations with her to see what type of woman she is, and just to see if he's a very good judge of character. Then it may not take a lot of conversation for him to see if this is a woman who's willing to get on his program. Cool. And oftentimes, a dominant man may get into a long-term relationship through either the process of sowing oats and then settling down, or he's going to go through transitional dating. That's what the sexually dominant man is going to do, right? Either he's going to sow his oats, and then either after burning out, feeling as if women are only using him for sex, right? Or running out of some of the options he used to, or just getting tired of casual sex himself, right? Just getting tired of casual sex. Or if he doesn't feel like the women who he's having casual sex with are women who he views as quality, or they aren't willing to view him as non-sexual quality, then that man will typically say, you know, I've had enough of running these streets, so I'm going to settle down. Right? That's one way in which a sexually dominant man, a player, may end up finding himself in a situation where he's with a woman, right? Where they're in a long-term relationship or marriage. Now, another way in which this may work is that this sexually dominant man may have a woman who he's fucking with, who's on his program, who's on his roster, who's on his team, who's in his rotation, and she campaigns for the position. And I heard somebody say this before, and I'm not a pimp. I don't, adhere to pimps. I'm a little bit closer, and I've been a little bit closer to the max side. I ain't saying that's what I do all the time. But let's say a man says, you know what, this woman has been on my program. She's been on my roster. She's been invested in my program for a considerable period of time. They say real pimps marry their hoes. Like if you a pimp and you got a hoe, and she been down for you for a long time. She been on your program. She been invested in you. She's put up with all your shit. You're like, you know what? I'm not going to just marry some new bitch who has no stripes under her name to show me that she's invested in me, that she's down for me. I'm not going to do that. So what you can do from that point is you say, okay, cool. I'm going to choose the woman who's the most invested in me. You have to be a certain level of attracted to her. I ain't saying she got to be a dime piece. But then you take that woman, you say, okay, cool. I'm going to make this woman my woman. When I get out the game, this is what I'm going to do. All right? And then that's who you choose to make something long-term happen with. Right? Now, the biology first approach, transitional dating through there is something that works relatively similar to that. You reward good behavior. That's the rewarding of the good behavior. She's been down for you. So now you say, I'm going to invest in her more emotionally. I'm going to invest in her more socially. I'm going to invest in her more financially because of how invested she's been in me. Right? That's the transitional dating model. So there's a lot of different things that go along with the reason that context matters. Right? Like, here's another example of context, right? And this video isn't going to be too much longer from here on out, right? But another way in which context matters is this. Let's say a woman has a 7 level of sexual attraction to you. Understand that within this 7 level of sexual attraction, it's going to work like this, right? If that woman doesn't value you enough sexually, then that means that the things that you require of her non-sexually are going to take more out of her, right? Because on a 7 level of sexual attraction, a woman feels like sex is something that she's giving you. She may be somewhat attracted to you. She may like you a lot non-sexually, right? But let's say you're dealing with a woman who has a 7 level of sexual attraction towards you. Spending money and having sex with you is going to be something where she's either reciprocating on a small level for how much you've already invested in her, right? Non-sexually. She really likes you, right? Or it's going to be a situation where she feels like, damn, I'm starting to feel like his mother. I got to give this nigga pussy and I got to spend money on him. It's going to feel like too much. She's going to start to lose respect for you, right? Now, if you're a man she has a 9 level of sexual attraction to, then you can look that woman dead in her eyes and say, dick ain't free. And she'll be like, yes, daddy. And then after you drop some dick off on her, she's ready to go spend some money on you. Context matters. Right? Context matters. Like, and people talk about how sex ain't that important. You got to understand that the way that a woman views you sexually is going to play a role in how she feels about investing in you non-sexually. Because both are an investment. Depending on how much she feels like she's giving versus how much she feels like she's receiving sexually is going to play a role in how comfortable and how willing she is to invest in you non-sexually. And also understand this, a woman can like you a lot. But if she has to invest a lot she can love you, but if she feels like she has to invest a lot in you non-sexually, she may start to feel like your mother if her sexual attraction isn't high enough, right? Or Another thing that can transpire is if a woman feels like she has to invest a lot into you non-sexually in order to interact with you, and she likes you or she even loves you, right? Especially a low-cut woman, right? Then the more she has to invest energy-wise into things non-sexually, whether that's things she does around the house, whether that is, you know, how much she has to spend on bills, whether that's even things having to do with your program. Maybe you want her to go back to school. Maybe you want her to go back to work so that you can pursue your purpose. A woman who loves you will do it. She will. Right? A woman who respects you will do it. She will. But guess what? If it took too much out of her cup to do that, it's going to lessen how sexually available she is to you. And if you can't handle that, then getting frustrated with her for not being as sexually available to you when you're requiring more of her non-sexually is going to come off as if you are an entitled, narcissistic man who's unreasonable, who's not compassionate, who just wants too much of her, and it's going to seem like nothing she ever does is something that you're happy with, and eventually that's going to lead to a daddy versus father effect, and she's going to shut down on you sexually completely. She may have an affair. She may cheat on you. Gotta understand that context matters. Don't just assume the woman's sexual desire level. And this is something to understand. A woman can be sexually available to you above her level of sexual attraction to you based off of how invested she feels in you and how invested you are in her non-sexually. And this is where context matters. You get to see this a lot more clearly when it comes to biology first approach. A woman can have a 7 level of sexual attraction to you and do 8, maybe almost 9 level of sexual attraction type of things, even 10 level of sexual attraction type things, from drawing from her cup, drawing from her compassion and love for you to do these things. But she may not be able to keep up with that. And if you're not invested enough in her, not taking enough burdens off of her, taking enough off of her plate for her to have the energy to do that, then her cup is going to get really low. And eventually she's not going to be able to maintain or sustain that. Right? Like, think about sugar daddies. How do sugar daddies work? A sugar daddy may get 8, 9, 10 level of sexual attraction treatment, like acts and dynamics that include those things. But that's because the amount of financial investment that he's making in the woman takes enough responsibility away from her to be able to put more energy into sex without having the desire to actually do those things. That's like when you hear a woman talking about, well, I'll be submissive if a man pays all my bills. Right? When a woman says, well, I'll do all these things sexually if a man is my financial provider. Because a person has a limited amount of energy in life. They have a limited amount of energy. That means that depending on how much they desire to do something, causing themselves to do something that they don't desire to do on an intrinsic level takes a lot of energy from them. Right? So if you're able to alleviate the burdens of a woman financially, that means she gets to save energy she would have had to exert at work. And then she can use that energy she would have had to exert at work to pay those bills. And she can use that energy to be more sexually available to you. Right? So just understand energy management. Understand the importance of context. This is Coach Brody. I'm out.